So for this Christmas and holiday season, you might be thinking about creating your own winter wreaths, or you might have grown a lot of ingredients and dried flowers for everlastings for your wreaths. But you also might be asking yourself, what are the best everlasting ingredients for wreaths? Well, I'm going to share with you the things that I absolutely love to use and to decorate in my winter wreaths. So whenever you're thinking about winter and everlastings, I think you need to think about what the season means to you. And while these might be my favourite flowers for winter wreaths, I would encourage you to look at the things that you have grown and the things around you, because we have people from all over the world interacting with us on our videos, which is really wonderful. It gives me so much joy and also inspiration to see what people are doing. So one of the things that I grow a lot of here is AQUILEGIA. Absolutely love its shape. It grows like a weed here and it's really robust. So I often get 2 cuts, so 2 crops of that, and you can use it fresh or dried, and it's super easy to dry. I've got lots of drying videos on my channel which you can have a look at as well for ingredients that I've been drying this year. But in this wreath, I grow a variety called Parker's Yellow, and it's this very, very kind of bold structure. Now, I think for winter wreaths, you really need to have ingredients that shout out, really, that you can say, oh gosh, that reminds me of, or that's, you know, winter. Now, these wreaths were created quite recently for autumn and for Halloween, and we were running our online live classes for those wreaths where I show people how to make them, and I've got a way of making a very biodegradable base. At a minimum, they're sustainable, and it's great to interact with loads of people on those classes and to share the passion that we have for planet-friendly florals. That this is what this YouTube channel is all about, really. It's about sustainability and reusing. So you've got your dried flowers, or you're going to order some dried flowers from somebody. I would have a look out for my next favourite one, HELICHRYSUM. This is just such a beautiful smiley face. They look, they grow dried virtually. They're just beautiful volumetric flowers that just really make any wreath, and particularly winter wreaths, look very floriferous. They echo the summer, and I love that about dried flowers, that when you can use the ingredients for winter wreaths, then they look like they are then just growing on into the winter, even though my flower season is kind of coming to a close. Although I will say I've just cut a bucket of fresh flowers from my November garden. So I'm going to share with you my next ingredient, which is a little bit of a local kind of UK thing, and it may be that you have equivalents where you are around the world, but it's this ingredient. It's called BRACKEN. It's everywhere here in the UK, and it really just changes colour at this time of year in mid-autumn to late autumn. And for that reason, I included it in this autumn wreath, because it really signifies the seasonal moment. It's very, very distinctive, and it also has a great texture. So when you're looking out for your own ingredients for dried flowers and everlastings, I would really have a think about texture as well as colour and shape, because those are the things that make all the difference in wreaths, really. So the other ingredient that I included in this wreath is this. It's called MONTBRETIA or CROCOSMIA, and its variety is Lucifer. Now, I particularly love that. I like growing bulbs in my cut flower garden because they are very perennial. I don't have to fuss over them. They flower for me again and again and again. And while I like annuals and biennials, I absolutely love my perennials, and you'll see on some of the videos for drying everlastings, you'll see a lot of the things that I have illustrated to dry are perennials as well. So I would encourage you to look at some of the things you've got growing in your gardens, or to have a real think about that. So the other ingredient here that isn't a perennial, that actually is an annual, that I really love, and I can never grow enough of it, is Nigella, and particularly the seed pods. So those seed pods are just such a great shape, and they are so easy to dry, and they just make a real difference to any kind of winter wreath, because they have such a pretty shape. So when you're putting ingredients into a wreath, I think you have to love all your ingredients that you're choosing. Otherwise, you don't quite make something that you love. So I'm sharing with you the ingredients that I love for my autumn and winter wreaths, and I'm gonna show you the wreath behind me now, because it has another ingredient. Well, a couple of ingredients actually. So I'm going to swap these round. A couple of ingredients that this wreath doesn't have. And I think it's interesting when you mix things up as well. So this one has a really ubiquitous ingredient that everybody knows is a really great one to dry, which is hydrangeas. They are super good, super volumetric, and they just have these little pretty dancing flowers. So I love to include hydrangeas in either the autumn wreath or a winter wreath. The other thing that I've included in this wreath, there are a few things actually. Another perennial, which is this AQUILEGIA and seed heads. Very, very lovely perennial, because the flowers are beautiful in the spring, these nodding heads, but the seed heads are equally structural and distinctive, and it means that you don't only get fresh flowers, you get these really lovely seed heads as well. And you'll see some other seed heads. So this is a theme for when you're making wreaths or thinking about ingredients for wreaths. I love these poppy seed heads, and I had somebody ask me recently whether I could ship one of these wreaths over to the US, and we lived in the US for a while. It was just we lived in Pennsylvania and worked in Delaware, and so we know Homeland Security, and these seed heads actually do have seeds. So I don't think I'd get past the bio security, unfortunately, which is such a shame, because I'd love to be able to ship these to the US. It feels like it's our second home to the US. I could still drive home to our little house in Pennsylvania. Anyway, those seed heads mean that I cannot ship any of these wreaths to the US, sadly, although you can still join us here, because we have our classes that are a click of a button away. But those seed heads on all of the wreaths mean that things feel, at this time of year, autumn and even into winter, very kind of transiently, from a fresh flower to the season kicking over, to it actually going into a resting period. So you'll see here, I've used the other ingredient that I mentioned in the other wreath, HELICHRYSUM. If you've never grown it, then do. It's such a great fresh flower, but it's an absolutely brilliant dried flower as well. And I'm just having a look to see if there's any other favourite ingredients on this wreath. And there is one, and it's called MULLION, or the botanical name verbascum. Again, it's a perennial, so I've just tucked up our cut flower garden. I'm mulching everywhere, and these are being mulched. I've got varieties growing out there like Southern Charm. I love the name, so I had to get the seed and grow it. But the seed heads of that are brilliant. The fresh flowers are brilliant. So I would encourage you to look at your native flowers and the things that grow around you. I mean, these are a few of the things that grow really well on my solid clay soil, and that's the other thing about my best ingredients for winter wreaths. It's things that do well here for me. Now, you might be able to grow other things that frankly I can't. Now, in the UK, there are very specific rules about foraging. So as a commercial florist, I'm unable to forage legally, but I'm very lucky to have a paddock. So we're on 1.5 acres here, and I've got hawthorn hedges, and I can cut things from those hedges and choose those to dry. So some of the things that you dry are the bold heads, the seed heads, the very colourful things. But I would say you also need to think about those other more ethereal ingredients, those magical kind of little wispy things that you might have in your part of the world that I haven't got here, that can add a real local, seasonal, kind of special element to your everlasting dried wreaths for any time of the year, really. So anyway, I am hoping to say hello to you on one of the classes if you are joining us. So I'm going to wave goodbye for now, and thanks very much for watching.